The UFC is headed out of the Apex and into a real arena, an actual arena with a full-size cage and plenty of fans. They're headed to Atlantic City. My name is Angelo. This is We Want Picks, and I'm going to break down the entire UFC Atlantic City fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. But before I do, here's a picture of our boy Jake on last night's UFC Vegas 89 broadcast. If you don't know, Jacob's my partner in crime. He's the other gentleman on this channel. And he flew out to Vegas to watch UFC Vegas 89 live in person. They loved his ridiculous shirt so much, they threw him on the broadcast more than one time. So congratulations to Jakey boy. He had the absolute time of his life. And keep your eyes open. I think he vlogged the entire experience. That video should be up whenever he gets sober and heads back to Texas. If you do want my full thoughts and recap of that card, I have a Home Alone face video on the channel. I break down the entire card, not only the picks and the bets, but my thoughts on Andre Lima's tattoo after getting bit, on the couple of questionable decisions and everything else. Check out that video. And speaking of videos, we have a brand new segment here on We Want Picks. We brought in Minty Bets. Minty Bets, the personality on every single UFC broadcast, giving you her bets. Well, now she's here at We Want Picks, breaking down the weigh-ins for every single event. And that was a hole in this space. Every single Friday morning, there's weigh-ins. The weigh-ins are anywhere from 1 hour to 2 hours. Some fighters look great. Some look terrible. Sometimes we have weight misses. Sometimes somebody steps on that scale, they do a face-off, and we didn't realize how massive of a size difference there was going to be. But not all of us can sit there watching 2 hours of weigh-ins. They're not even entertaining. Sometimes you get a rush of 4 or 5 fighters weighing in and then literally nothing for 45 minutes until the others start to creep onto the scale. Minty watches the entire weigh-in and then recaps them for you in a couple of a minute video, anywhere from 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the week and the drama that ensued. Check out that video, catch up on the weigh-ins, and make sure you are fully aware of everything that happens every single Friday morning at those weigh-ins. Those videos will be up every Friday for every single event, recapping the weigh-ins right here at We Want Picks. So make sure you like, subscribe, and do all the things. Speaking of all the things, these are all the things that have happened in 2024. So far, we're through 10 events. Last night was not a spectacular event, but this year so far has been very fruitful for myself and some premium members. I'm up almost 6 units, 5.9 units. A unit for me is $100. So I'm up $600 essentially on the year so far with a 15% return on investment through my bets. And that's the ebbs and flows of MMA. You'll have a spectacular event, and then you have a little bit of a dip when you get some of these fighters who, Billy Quarantillo, can't stay alive, can't survive, can't continue to push forward and get absolutely smoked. Either way, so far 2024 has been pretty successful for us. If you want to hop on board and become a premium member, you will get access to things like the safety parlay, the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every single fighter on every single card. This card specifically, bunch of interesting movements. Julio Arce became the biggest favorite on the entire card. Jamall Emmers, his line absolutely skyrocketed. Lots going on here. All of this and more at WeWantPicks.com. It's only $10 for an entire month. That will get you past UFC 300. You're also going to get the detailed data, metrics, and analytics. 38 columns of information ready for you to dive into, to sort, to work with, to find your prop bet spots, avoid prop bet spots, and more. You're also going to get the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game. This is for our fantasy crowd. We have a full suite of betting tools, a full suite of DraftKings fantasy tools, and this sits in that DraftKings fantasy category. There are no packages. You're not going to pay more to do more. All of it, every single thing is only $10 a month. We had a 1.99, a sub 2% ownership projection. That is a spectacular number. And if you are a DraftKings fantasy aficionado, you know how important this number is and how it is the best in the space. And that will be preloaded into our optimizer every single Friday. This optimizer will be loaded with our DraftKings ownership projections ready for you to build winning lineups. All of this and a lot more that I don't have time to mention is available in one single package for only $10 an entire month. WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top, unlock all of it, and that will take you well into UFC 300 Fight Week. We're talking $2.50 an event. And if you want to send us some mail, this is the address to do so. For every single pay-per-view, I film a vlog, and during that vlog, we will get packages and we will open those packages. Sometimes it's somebody sending a nice letter, sometimes it's a gift, and sometimes it's somebody promoting their small business. We're happy to do all of it and engage with you. Here is the address to send some mail. You got a couple of weeks before UFC 300 and that vlog where we will open it. Let's go ahead and break down this card. It's not a spectacular card, but it is much better than the cards we've been getting. The problem with the Apex is that we don't get the best cards. And that all stems from UFC 300. UFC 300 is such a stacked card that it has sucked these other events around it dry. And that's just the reality of the situation. Anytime the UFC leaves the Apex and we get a named event, meaning it's not UFC Vegas and then a number, but an actual name, UFC Paris, UFC London, in this case, UFC Atlantic City, you expect a better card. You expect some good matchups. This isn't a spectacular card, but this is a decent card, and I do feel much more comfortable betting spots on this card than I have on some of the more recent Apex cards. And let's go ahead and break it down. Opening up, UFC Atlantic City, we have Nate Landwehr taking on Jamall Emmers. Nate Landwehr is a wild man. He's Nate the Train. I've had the luxury, the privilege of spending some time with him in real life. Some of you who don't know me or my background, I managed professional fighters for a very long time. One of those fighters was Nick Newell, the famous fighter with one arm that they made a movie about. And he was fighting in a couple of promotions that would travel us around the world, travel us around the country. And Nate Landwehr fought in one of those promotions, the XFC. And we got to spend some time with this absolute wild man. And not only is he wild in real life, he's wild in the cage. He will just run forward, throw insane amount of strikes and kicks, and do whatever he has to do, and then look for a finish at all costs. He is a talented guy. He's got some power, got some skills, but he puts himself in the harm's way for no reason whatsoever. He's never been in a boring fight. I don't anticipate this one will be boring either. He's typically looking to pressure hard, get it to the ground, and work from there. He's coming off that decision loss to Dan Ige where he was knocked down and then went 0 for 4 in takedown attempts. He's taking on Jamall Emmers. Jamall Emmers is not Nate Landwehr. He's a calculated guy. He takes his time. He uses accuracy. He's a very good striker, but he's actually a wrestler in discipline. He only has a 40% takedown accuracy, but his defense, however, sits at a very solid 90%. He's only 3-4 in the UFC, but his losses are quality. He lost to Giga in a very close fight. He lost to Pat Sabatini where he dropped that dude, almost had him knocked out, but then got submitted in an instant when it hit the ground. And then most recently, he lost to Jack Jenkins in a robbery. He beat the shit out of Jack Jenkins. That was not a losing fight. He should have won that fight. He's coming off the sub 1 minute knockout win over Dennis Buzukja. Jamall Emmers should win here. This should be his fight. He's a fantastic wrestler. He has incredible power. Nate gets hit a ton. And if Nate can't find success wrestling, he is not going to be able to hang on the feet. My only concern, like with pretty much every single Nate Landwehr fight, is that he has insane forward pressure, and that could be a problem for a lot of people. And if Emmers doesn't want to fight backing up, he could have a difficult night. I'm still picking Emmers. I'm staring at the odds, though. He's a 2-1 favorite, and I just haven't made peace with that just yet. I keep going back and forth from he should be a 2-1 favorite. He's the better fighter. And then I'm like, well, but Nate has that pressure, and pressure can get people completely out of sorts. And Jamall Emmers' takedown defense is good, but he hasn't had somebody just shooting on him nonstop. There's a lot of factors here. Jamall is going to be the pick, and I'm just trying to weigh how confident I am in him to actually get it done. Then we have Bill Algeo taking on Kyle Nelson. Bill Algeo's another fast-paced striker, but he's got that karate-style stance and that karate-style hand placement, like just a little baby Wonder Boy Thompson. And because of that karate-style stance, he's got some decent defense, surprisingly high output of more than 6 significant strikes landed per minute. He's a dirty stand-up kind of guy if he can keep it there. He does have some okay takedowns, but a very low 46% takedown accuracy and a 56% takedown defense. He does have a BJJ black belt, great cardio, a fast pace, and he is super durable. He's coming off that dominant win over Alexander Hernandez. He's taking on Kyle the Monster Nelson. This guy's a solid striker. He does have some very real power in his hands. He's been in the UFC since 2018, and he just got his 3rd ever win to bring his overall record close to even. He's at 3-4-1. He does have some solid takedown defense and does a really good job using his opponent's takedown attempts to create scrambles and then end up on top. He does a great job making fights ugly and winning with toughness. He's coming off that decision win over Fernando Padilla, where his second fight in a row, his forward pressure was the difference. And this is another fight where we should have somebody that should win. Bill Algeo should win this fight. His striking is tricky to deal with. His volume is insane. He's got very good BJJ. And we saw in the Herbert Burns fight that he's insanely durable. And he does have defensive jiu-jitsu. The concern, however, is that Nelson has become a busy forward pressure guy. The pause there was awkward. I don't know. Let's do that again. The concern, however, is that Kyle Nelson has become a busy forward pressure striker as of late. And it could be a tricky situation because despite Bill Algeo's karate style, he does get hit a lot. And this fight is definitely going to go to a decision. So maybe the safest play here is, instead of picking a side, going the over on rounds. They're both pretty durable guys. They're both going to come forward. And we could have a weird decision where they love Kyle Nelson's forward pressure and hate Bill's karate style movements. Over 2.5 is safe. The pick, if I have to make one, is going to be Bill Algeo. But I do like over 2.5 as far as bets are concerned. Then we have Melissa Gatto back in the cage, taking on Victoria Dudakova. And it's interesting because Melissa Gatto is a grappler. She's got very good BJJ. Her jiu-jitsu is actually best off of her back. And that could be a gift or a curse, right? It helps her against heavy wrestlers who take her down, but it also gives her a false sense of confidence and just creates situations where she's losing rounds on her back, flopping around, trying to throw things up. And while she is primarily a grappler, she has technical striking. It's a bit stiff, but it is technical, and she uses it well to set up her takedowns. She is riding back-to-back losses, most recently a close decision to Ariana Lipski, where she had success striking, but she went an embarrassing 0-for-7 in takedown attempts. She's taking on Victoria Dudakova. She's a very exciting fighter. She's going to come across the cage and let her hands fly and then either keep a striking distance or work some grappling. Her striking is clean. It's powerful. Her BJJ is slick. You will find tape of her just shooting blast doubles as well as defending takedowns and then firing away on her feet. She's coming off a decision win over Jin Yu Fry, where she had a knockdown and plenty of success striking, but her BJJ off her back needs a little bit of work, and it didn't look spectacular. Melissa Gatto is the favorite here, -155. And on the surface, it makes sense. She can get the takedowns, and Victoria gets taken down. Not to mention, this is up a weight class for Victoria. She's moving up in weight here, and that's not going to help her against a strong grappler. Melissa Gatto's fucking jacked. Like, she is strong and powerful. But even with the size difference and the wrestling gap, I'm leaving the dog here. I'm leaning Victoria Dudakova. I think she can be the busier and more dangerous striker on her feet. And if Melissa doesn't ragdoll Victoria early, Melissa's going to start to lose confidence in her ability to get a takedown, and they will continually get worse as the fight goes on. Just watch her last fight for reference. Victoria is going to be the pick. I'm going to monitor the line movement tracker. I'm going to eat my own dog food, drink my own champagne, and work with that. And frankly, I wish I monitored the line movement tracker for that absolute bum Billy Quarantillo. Because the line movement tracker, which is one of the tools on premium, was very clear. I mean, it was clear. The guy opened at -300, shot down to -140, and then eventually flipped to a very, very slight dog. And that's the type of movement that should alarm you. Bells should go off to say, you know what? Maybe this isn't the spot I should be betting on. And it's clear as day. The best part about the line movement tracker is it's fully embedded in the website. You can sort it. Very quickly sort it by most dramatic movement in whatever direction you want. You can sort it by who became a bigger favorite, who became a bigger dog, whatever you want to do. And I need to start drinking my own champagne, which is a classy way. I'm very classy, which is a classy way of saying use my own tools. It would have saved me $100 on Billy freaking Q, because sometimes the sharps are sharp and the public is publicing. I'm going to watch the line moving tracker here, see what the line does with Victoria. The size worries me a little bit. But you know what? If the line movement tracker tells me that people are confident in her, then, well, by golly, maybe I should be too. And you can unlock that line movement tracker at WeWantPicks.com. Just click become a member. It's freaking $10. Overall in the year, we are doing quite well. There will be ebbs and flows, but we're talking $10, $2.50 an event. And you're going to get that all the way through UFC 300. WeWantPicks.com. Click become a member at the top. Then we have a rematch nobody asked for. We have Ibo Aslan taking on Anton Turkalj. And this should be a fun fight, and I do have a bet on this fight. We have Ibo Aslan. This guy is a heavy-handed striker who can knock you out with half power and short hooks. He's a bit wide in his strikes. He's a bit sloppy, but it doesn't matter. He's all power, and he has plenty of it in both his hands and his feet. He's not looking to wrestle, but he will sneak in the occasional body lock trip where he will then tee off on top. He does have some cardio issues. That is how he lost this fight the first time. He was beating the shit out of Anton, gassed a little bit. Anton took over and got it done. Anton, the pleasure man Turkalj. What an insane, first of all. I mean, he's objectively a good-looking guy. But there is something about him that, like, makes him a villain in a TV show. Right? Like Big Little Lies, he looks like the husband. Like, he looks like the villain in Big Little Lies. A wild accent, a nickname like the Pleasure Man. Scary dude. But in the cage, he's a fun, athletic fighter. He's going to mix it up on his feet. He has no problem taking risks. He's got an incredibly diverse striking style where he's going to spin, he's going to kick, he's going to charge forward, and just mix it all up together well. Not only is his striking fun, but he has aggressive takedowns, and his offensive BJJ is solid. His pressure is incredible, and that's what separates him from most people. He is coming off 3 losses in a row, and he's definitely fighting to keep his job here. I mentioned this is a rematch. Their first fight was in 2020, and Anton won that fight. Ibo basically beat the hell out of him on his feet. He even worked in a few takedowns. He beat him up there, but then he gassed in the second round. He got sloppy. Anton took advantage of that and choked him. Very simply, if Ido has a gas tank, he destroys Anton. We saw him with a gas tank for 5 minutes, and he beat the piss out of this guy. So Ibo, not Ido, damn it. God, get it together. Ibo, with a gas tank, wins this fight. He absolutely wins this fight. But I have no idea if his gas tank has improved. But I do know that since they last fought, Ibo has knocked out 4 people, and Anton has been finished twice in 3 of his losses, included a knockout by Tyson Pedro. Anton, while normally very durable, seems to be leaning into the fun guy. He's getting hit more than he should be. He's taking more risks than he should, and he's just losing. I'm going to lean Ibo here. I think we're going to get a discount on this line. I have a half a unit bet on him at minus 115. Yes, he lost the first fight. And yes, if he has no gas tank, he might lose this one too. But the dude is a beast. We watched him beat the hell out of Anton Turkalj the first time. And as long as he doesn't gas and leave his neck out like a dummy, we should be good here. Half a unit, minus 115. The bet is on Ibo Aslan. I'm fully aware that I wrote Asian as his last name instead of Aslan. That's a typo, and I will address that with the team being me. And in my defense, these are custom graphics. This isn't some lazy Tapology operation. This isn't some Microsoft Paint nonsense. I mean, we removed the background on images. You guys, the little Easter eggs, this background, the purple, that's the inside of the arena that they're fighting in. I mean, so if I swap a letter by accident, I'm hoping for a little bit of forgiveness, okay? Thank you so much. Then we have the biggest favorite on the card. By far the biggest favorite on the card. He shouldn't be. There's somebody else that should be. We'll break him down in a minute. But we have Julio Arce coming back after a year away and sitting at a minus 550 favorite fighting Gilbert Burns' younger, pathetic brother. Julio Arce is a striker. He's got solid volume, impressive defense. He is able to come forward with power and still counter-strike when things come back his way. He utilizes both his hands and his feet really well, and he moves well as well. I've said well a whole bunch of times there. The problem, though, is that when he gets hit, his chin does not always hold up. He has wrestling in his back pocket when he fights the better strikers, and so far his takedown defense is really solid, at 94%. He is coming back after a loss to Montel Jackson and a full year away. He's taking on Herbert Burns. This is the younger brother of Gilbert Burns and one half of the most pathetic photo in UFC history. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll tell you in a minute after we break this down. While Herbert is not his brother, meaning he's not Gilbert, he hasn't accomplished what Gilbert has accomplished, he still averages almost 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. And even though we have not seen him fight in 2 years, he does have some quality wins over grapplers like Evan Dunham and Derek Minner. The problem is that he can at times be submission or bust. He's very dangerous on the ground, but as we saw in his last fight, if you can weather a storm and you can stick it to him, he will straight up quit. And he needs to be carried out of the octagon in his brother's arms like a husband carrying his bride through the threshold. There is a picture, I should have put it on here, but there is a picture of Gilbert Burns holding his brother like this as his brother lays limp in his arms, carrying him through the walkway into the back room, into the locker rooms. It was the saddest thing anybody has ever seen. Just straight up pathetic. This is a cage fight. You're a professional cage fighter. And he wasn't carried out of there because his ankles broke. It wasn't Conor McGregor's shin who shattered in half. He was carried out of there because he beat the shit out of Bill Algeo and then gassed and lost and then just felt bad for himself. The guy quit. He quit. And he quit bad. It was legit embarrassing. And there's 2 things I can't believe. A, that he kept his job. And B, he's willing to show his face again. I am not the only person that is going to railroad this guy for the way that he went out in his last fight. I am not going to be the only person that's doing that. And if I am, I apologize. I guess I am. My wife says I'm a bully, and I guess I'm being a bully. If Julio gets taken down, he actually will be in some trouble. Despite the railroading of Herbert Burns, his jiu-jitsu is insane. Like, he had Bill Algeo in a ton of trouble. His jiu-jitsu is insane. But I don't think he's going to get the takedowns. Julio Arce should win this fight. If Julio wasn't coming off his own very long layoff, I actually would consider him for the safety parlay. But at minus 550 with a full year away, I'm just going to enjoy whatever nonsense happens here. And Julio Arce should beat Herbert Burns. I don't imagine Herbert's going to quit and be like, there's no way. Dude, if he quits 2 times like that, there's no way. He does have some quality wins. He's not a terrible fighter. That was just, the display. Like a bride through the threshold. If you don't know what that means, that's like the old school, you get married and the husband carries his wife through the doorway to start their new life. That's what he looked like. Tough look. Then we have Chidi Njokuani taking on the overrated Rhys McKee. I am a bully. Why did I open it like that? The hell did Rhys do to me? I picked against them. Let's start that over. We have Chidi Njokuani taking on Rhys McKee. Chidi Njokuani is a very good striker. He's got speed. He's got power. Good distance control. Not a high volume guy, but he does stick and move really well. His feet are never in the same place for a very long time, and people have a really hard time getting to him. If you're able to get inside the reach and work your way to his legs, you can potentially have success with the takedowns. Damn it. You know what's so funny? As I'm breaking this down, I can do a lot of things at once. So I'm speaking. I'm looking at my notes and my script. I write the script. I'm looking at it, and in my head, I'm going like, wow, dude, we've been recording for 24 minutes here, and I haven't had to edit anything out. I haven't had one issue yet. And then I say, his feet are never in the same place for a very long time. You have a really hard time getting to him, and if you're able to get inside the reach and work your way to his legs, you could potentially have success with the breakdowns. I'm supposed to say takedowns. Anyway, he's coming off the KO loss to Michal Oleksiejczuk, where for the second freaking time, he was dominating early, looking good, and then got cracked. He's taking on Rhys McKee. This guy is a very long striker who has had a rough stretch in the UFC. He made his debut against Khamzat Chimaev, where he landed literally 0 strikes. He landed exactly 0 strikes before being submitted. And then he lost the decision to Alex Morono. He left for 3 years, came back wide-eyed and ready to be the UFC guy just to lose a decision to Angelosa, where he was taken down 6 times. Style-wise, Rhys is a rangy striker. He does have accuracy, speed, and power. He does a great job piecing people apart from the outside and then rushing in when he has his openings. He does try to avoid grappling, but if you can close the distance, you can take him down. My daughter can take him down. He's very takedownable. Very takedown. Just like his leg is about this thick and they're just straight up and he doesn't do anything he's supposed to do. And hopefully Chidi decides to wrestle here. And we don't see a ton of wrestling out of him, but he can wrestle. And he doesn't need to because he's a phenomenal striker. But this card has a handful of fights where a heavy favorite is on an unfortunate losing streak. Chidi Njokuani is more than a 2-1 favorite. And he is cruising through a 3-fight losing streak. He was knocked out twice in that losing streak, and he's a massive favorite here. I do understand why he's the favorite. He's going to have a reach advantage over a guy who only knows how to be tall. Rhys McKee's skill set is tall. Like, that's it. Tall. That's all he knows how to do is be tall and use reach. And it didn't work for him in his last fight. It's not going to work for him in this fight. Chidi should be the better striker. He should be faster. He should hit harder. He's longer. And he can work in takedowns if he wants to. The problem is he's on that 3-fight skid, and 2 of those fights against Gregory Rodriguez and against McCall and Jacek, he was beating the piss out of them, looking incredible, and then cracked. And Rhys isn't insanely powerful, but he could make something happen. Chidi, I'm confident in him to win, but I do worry about like how many times is he going to dominate before losing. Chidi Njokuani is the pick. Then we have Angel Pacheco taking on a Caolan Loughran. Oh, I'm going to be the next Conor McGregor. And then got smoked. Oh, man, I am a bully. I don't know. I got to look in the mirror and just really assess why I feel the need to bully people. I don't know if it's like an inadequacy. I know this chair makes me look short. A lot of you think I'm short. I'm 6'3". It's not a height thing. This isn't a Napoleon thing. I'm not as fat as Jacob says I am. So I really don't know what it is. Like, life's pretty good. You guys have been amazing to us. The channel's going really well. So I don't know why I'm a bully. But it is something that I will reflect on and try to be better. But then Jacob starts running his mouth. He says dumb shit, and I just can't help but call him a leprechaun or make fun of his hair or his sun allergy or whatever it is. So I don't know. I'm going to try to be nice. We have Angel Pacheco taking on Caolan Loughran. Angel Pacheco is a unicorn. He is only the second Contender Series fighter who won a contract despite losing on the show. And he won that contract for 2 reasons. First, he had a great fight. And even though the decision was clear, like he really lost that fight, it wasn't a bad decision. It was close. And second, he went to Dana backstage, literally crying. And this isn't to make fun of him. Like, I understand the emotions involved here. You fight on the Contender Series that change your life. He went to Dana crying about how badly he wanted to win and that he's willing to fight anyone on short notice. And Dana loved that about him. And he signed him. And style-wise, Angel Pacheco is a very busy striker who pressures forward and lands at an incredible rate. You're going to see plenty of finishes on his record, but those are not one-punch knockouts. They are volume-based finishes. He stays in your face, he throws a million strikes, and he works from there. His takedown defense is okay. His offensive takedowns are almost non-existent, but he is an absolute dog. And this is what makes filming these damn videos on Sunday morning so difficult, because this turd decided to bark like crazy while breaking down Angel Pacheco. Now I have to lock him in here so he can stay quiet. Please hold. Angel Pacheco is taking on Caolan Loughran. This guy's a powerful striker who has a nice wide base, and he uses that to send kicks and generate some power. He does have a ton of power in both his hands and his feet. He tends to throw everything as hard as he possibly can. He's got solid takedown defense and really nice takedowns himself, but he does leave himself open because of that wide stance. He is wide and hesitant, which keeps him stationary. A busy striker with some good footwork or a solid wrestler can get him and avoid the trouble. Right? They can stay busy, avoid what comes at them, and make something happen. He is coming off his UFC debut loss to Taylor Lapilus, where he was outstruck, but he did go all in on the wrestling to go 2 for 11 in takedown attempts. And I don't know what it is about Caolan. And I'm not bully Ange. This is the new improved Ange from 10 minutes ago. I'm no longer a bully, but I don't love Caolan Loughran. Maybe it's the way that he showed up into his last fight talking about, I'm the next Conor McGregor. That was not the accent. I'm the next Conor McGregor. I'm the next big thing, Ireland. Only to have his strikes doubled and then just start diving at legs and not have success there either. The reality is the diving at legs is actually why I think he wins this fight. Because even though his takedown accuracy is an atrocious Mackenzie Dern-esque 18%, I do think he can keep Angel against the cage, get a handful of takedowns, and just grind. Angel doesn't have the power to one-punch knock out Caolan, so his only path will be insane volume, but that's going to be hard to do with the constant grappling and the constant leg diving from Caolan Loughran. He is the pick, but no thank you to the minus 300 price tag. That takes us to Dennis Buzukja taking on Conor Matthews. And this is an interesting fight. And I know I say interesting a lot in these breakdowns. I know what I sound like. But the reason this is an interesting fight is because I think very highly of Dennis Buzukja. I think he has a very, very good skill set. And he's a little bit of a favorite here. But this is a tough matchup because he's taking on Conor Matthews. This guy's a volume striker who moves forward, throwing everything he can, but he also receives everything that comes back his way. You are going to see that in 5 of his 7 wins, they were by submission. You're going to make the assumption that he's a grappler. And while he does have some okay takedowns, he's not a pure grappler. Most of his submission wins are coming from snatching things up in scrambles or even climbing his opponents against the cage. He's not a lower his level, take a shot, get it to the ground kind of guy. He's durable, he sets a nice pace, and he's well-rounded enough to hang with most people. He's taking on Dennis Buzukja. This guy's a come-forward wrestler with solid striking and guts. He's very tough, has clean striking technique, and he's got power and then aggressive takedowns to round him out. He's basically, as I've said in the past, he's basically Matt Frevola, but I think more athletic with cleaner striking, but far less power. He's coming off back-to-back losses, though, in the UFC. The first was a short notice step up to Sean Woodson where he struggled to get the length on the ground. And then the second was a sub 1 minute knockout loss to the very powerful Jamall Emmers. And this is a tricky fight because despite being a trash human being, and that's not an opinion, Dennis Buzukja has been in trouble for some pretty heinous shit. I do think Dennis is a very good fighter, and we just haven't seen it yet in the UFC. He's got very good wrestling. He's got good enough striking, and he should be able to win here. Conor is the exact type of guy that could lose a good amount of this fight and then randomly climb on his back and snatch something up if Dennis gets lazy against the cage. Dennis is going to be the pick, but until we see an actual UFC win out of him, I'm going to be holding on to my money and just rooting away. Rootin' tootin'. Speaking of rootin' tootin', the safety parlay historically has been a rootin' tootin' success. I have hit 11 of the last 15. Rocky road the last couple of weeks. Rocky road. I get it. But overall, a very high success rate, a very high lifetime ROI, and I am very confident that it will continue to be successful over the long term. You can unlock the safety parlay as well as every other thing that we do. This is just one of the many, many things we put on the board. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's $10. Literally $10. $2.50 an event. There's people out there with lesser product, meaning there's no tools, it's just bets, charging $50. There's people out there with an optimizer and a couple of bets, $80. This is the volume game. We have well over 3,000 happy customers, and that's why we're at that $10 price point. I'm in the volume game. Give me tens of thousands of people at $10 instead of trying to rake and squeeze every nickel out of every single person. So thank you for the support. If you're not a premium member, if you want to become one, WeWantPicks.com, click become a member at the top. You can unlock every single thing that we do. If you're looking for a cool 50, I'll send you $50. Just go to WeWantPicks.com/bets, sign up using our links, make a deposit, and we'll send you 50 smackaroos as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I'm going to slice some of it off and give it right back to you. Opening up the main card at UFC Atlantic City, we have Andre Petroski taking on Jacob Malkoun. This is, I'll let you finish this is a interesting fight. I get it. I say it a lot. Everybody has their own, like a lot of us, hey, go talk to somebody from New Jersey and see, not for nothing. All right, everybody's got their thing. Apparently mine is calling fights interesting. But this is interesting because we have Andre Petroski, who's very good. He's a very good wrestler. He's got great takedowns. His stand-up is just okay, but he's got so much power that he's dangerous as hell on his feet as well. And that same power is there for the wrestling. He is a wrestler. He's got fast, clean takedowns, and he sets those up with those big shots. He's got solid BJJ as well, and he uses that to control positions and snatch up submissions. He's coming off that knockout loss at middleweight to Michel Pereira. I said at middleweight because that was Michel Pereira's middleweight debut. He's taking on Jacob Malkoun. This guy is a grappler who likes to plot forward and throw everything himself with power. And because of this, all of his punches are looping. Even his jab isn't just a straight jab. It's like a whoop, whoop, did I get you? He is a capable wrestler. He does lower his level, and he times his shots well. Most of his shots are clean, and they're right there in the middle of the cage, and that works well for him. He averages more than 7 takedowns per fight. And as we like to highlight here, that means he has no control. You're not getting 7 takedowns if you can keep somebody on the ground, which isn't great for him. Because anytime Andre Petroski can stand up, there can be some power there. And Petroski has looked like shit in his last 2 fights. He has not looked good. He was outstruck by Gerald Meerschaert. I'll pause for dramatics. And he was taken down in that fight as well. He was absolutely starched by Michel Pereira. But I haven't given up on Petroski just yet. I think he's going to be the better wrestler in this matchup. And shockingly, I think he's going to be the better striker as well. At least the more dangerous striker. So I'm going to slight lean Andre Petroski here. If he loses this fight, then 2 things need to happen. He needs to be cut, and he needs to find a new gym. Because if you're not making the improvements, if you are this guy with that body, that power, those wrestling credentials, that jiu-jitsu, and you can't win, you're losing 3 fights in a row, I don't know what that was. You got to make some changes. You have to make changes. Leave that freaking gym. But I do think he's going to win, and I don't think it's going to require dramatic life changes, if you will. Then we have Nursulton Ruziboev taking on, that's not his accent, by the way, taking on Sedriques Dumas. Nursulton Ruziboev is a nasty wrestler. He's a grappling beast. He's going to get it to the ground any way that he needs to. He's going to shoot doubles. He'll catch kicks. Literally any opportunity he has, he will get you to the ground. And on the ground, he's very aggressive and always transitioning while looking for a finish. He's got fantastic BJJ. His control is not the best, though. But when he's standing, he can be a patient striker. I like to say he doesn't have any real power, but we did just see some decent power out of him in his last fight. He's coming off that short notice win over Bruno Ferreira, where he was an underdog. He's taking on Sedriques Dumas, or SD Dumas. And it's weird that it's SD Dumas. I guess SD for Sedriques. Maybe that's why. Because it could just be S Dumas. Anyway, Sedriques Dumas. This guy was a street fighter. He worked his way out of the streets into the octagon, and he's had some mixed success. The street fighting background is going to make you think he's just some wild brawler. He's just a striker, but he's actually decently well-rounded. He's got some okay takedowns. He's got okay kickboxing. He uses all of those techniques pretty well together. He can be powerful, and while breaking down tape, you're going to see him actually slam some of his opponents. He's got nice kickboxing. He uses leg kicks well to take away your balance. He is coming off of his 2nd UFC win, this time over Abu Azaitar. And again, I'm not a bully. I'm trying not to be a bully. But SD Dumas is kind of terrible. He won his last fight because the 40-year-old that he was fighting had no cardio. Nursulton is going to ragdoll him worse than Josh Freem did, and more than pay for his minus 265 price tag. Nursulton Ruziboev should be the biggest favorite on this card. He should be the minus 550. Not Julio Arce. I'm very confident in Nursulton Ruziboev. Anybody who grappled with Sedriques beat him. Even Cody Brundage. Cody Brundage took him down like that. But it was a short notice fight, and sometimes Cody Brundage doesn't make the best decisions. We watched him get ragdolled. We watched him get tossed around. That's all. That's very dramatic. But we watched Josh Freeman grapple him as well. Nursulton Ruziboev is a savage beast who is going to win this fight. I'm very, very confident in him. And honestly, if you like him as well, don't ever bet on somebody you don't think is going to win. Right? If you think Nursulton's going to lose and you think SD is very good, but then you hear me talking, you're like, well, Angelo said, don't do that. If you like Nursulton and then you hear me and I'm pushing you over the edge, great, go for it. Don't ever bet on somebody you don't think is going to win. With that being said, if you think Nursulton's going to win and you're considering a bet, I recommend you do it now because he's going to close as a massive favorite. People are going to see what I see, and this line is about to take off. Then we have one of my favorite fighters of all time, one of the most likable guys in this sport, Chris Weidman. 39-year-old, almost 40-year-old Chris Weidman trying to get back in the win column against Bruno Silva. And it's not going to be the easiest thing to do because Bruno Silva's good. He's a fantastic striker with solid BJJ. He can knock your head off at any moment or even implement a grapple-heavy game plan. Although he has great hands and he hits like a truck, he's also very hittable and he has a negative striking differential. His performances are very hot and cold, which makes him unreliable, but he did look pretty good in his recent loss to prospect Shara Magomedov, where he had 3 takedowns and he did showcase his toughness. He's taken on former middleweight champion of the world, Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman was the first champion that Serra Longo fight gym produced, outside of Matt Serra, obviously. He's a great wrestler, solid striker, and when he was the champion, there was a period of time where they were talking about he's going to be the next Anderson Silva, and he literally beat Anderson Silva twice. Unfortunately, life comes at you fast. He snapped his leg in 2021, only to come back in 2023 and have one of the worst performances I've ever seen. And it was sad to watch because he's an all-time great and I absolutely love him, but he looked just old and slow and confused. He just did not look like himself in that fight. And maybe we have to give him a little bit of leeway, right? His leg was snapped in half. It was in 2 pieces. And this was his first fight back. And maybe he was nervous to kick. Maybe he was nervous to train. Like maybe he needed to get through that just to know, okay, my leg's not just going to magically snap in half every time I fight. Because I love Chris Weidman. You will never hear me bet against him. And you'll rarely hear me pick against him. And while I do think he's one of the best guys at middleweight ever, and I do think this is one of the last winnable fights for him at this weight class, I still think Bruno's going to get it done. He hits plenty hard. He's insanely tough. And the version of Weidman that we just saw in his last fight was like 30% of the guy that he once was. And maybe it was nerves, right? Maybe it was ring rust. Maybe it was age in a very unforgiving sport. But I still got to pick Bruno Silva. I am going to be cheering for Chris Weidman the entire time, so don't expect to see a bet on Bruno because that would be kind of contradictory. Somebody said that, actually. Somebody was like, I know what Jacob's doing, because Jacob bet a whole bunch of money on Amanda Hebos to win. Somebody was like, Jacob's picking Amanda and rooting for her, but he's going to bet on Rose. This way he wins no matter what. That's not how that works. You see it as you're happy no matter what. I see it as you're miserable no matter what. Yeah, you made a couple of dollars, but the person you wanted to win lost. That sucks. That sucks just as bad half the time. So no bet here because I don't think Chris is going to win. And I'm not going to bet on a guy I don't think is going to win. Then we have Verna Jandiroba taking on Lupi Godinez. This fight is, I don't want to say interesting. This fight will really let us see where Lupi is in the food. She's either elite, could be fighting for a title soon, or back to her old inconsistent ways because Verna Jandiroba is good. And yeah, she looks exactly like Rob Schneider. Fine. But I bet she could beat Rob Schneider's ass because she's a grinder. She's very solid on the ground. Her striking is just okay, but she hits hard. She throws with volume, and she doesn't have much head movement at all, but the stats they're going to reinforce. They're going to tell that story. She's got a negative striking differential. But she doesn't have much head movement, but she will throw and she will come forward. There are no secrets to her game plan. Throw big, heavy punches and look for a takedown. She's 5-3 in the UFC, but her losses are solid. Decent outings against Carla Esparza, former champ. Mackenzie Dern, kind of a very tough. No more bullying. Very tough Mackenzie Dern. And Amanda Hebos, who some people argue just beat Rose Namajunas. She is coming off that grapple-heavy win over Marina Rodriguez, where she shot 7 takedowns. She's taking on Lupi Godinez. Lupi is big. She's strong. She's a wrestler. Solid striking, clean boxing. She's got great setups to both the wrestling and the striking. She is big for this weight class, and she uses her size and strength well to execute that bully-style game plan. She's got all the talent in the world, and she can genuinely beat most of this division when she is on. Since moving camps, since training with Alexa Grasso, she seems to have made incredible striking and fight IQ improvements to kill that unreliable reputation she had in weird outings like the Angela Hill and Cynthia Calvillo fights. She's coming off that very close win over Tabitha Ricci, where she used her wrestling defensively and sort of showcased those striking improvements. Lupi is better than Verna Jandiroba literally everywhere, even wrestling. But regardless of how good of a wrestler you are, when you have somebody who will non-stop take shots on you, it can throw you off and they can have some success. I've said this many times, but it is much easier to finish a bad takedown than it is to defend one. Defending takedowns is a lot harder than finishing them. And if Verna is going to come in here shooting nonstop, she can play spoiler and have success with that very one-dimensional game plan. I do think Lupi defends enough of the takedowns and has enough success striking to get the win. The striking gap is incredibly wide, and I think it's going to make up for some of the grappling pressure. Lupi is the pick, and this is going to be a very good fight to see how good she is, because Verna is just sneakily under the radar picking off ranked opponents. That last win over Marina Rodriguez was nice, and Marina's good. So this is going to be an interesting fight, and I am curious to see how Lupi handles when somebody wants to wrestle her. Then we have the co-main event of the evening. We have Joaquin Buckley at 170 pounds in the biggest fight of his career, arguably. He's taking on Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque is pretty good everywhere. He's got power in his hands. He's got solid wrestling defense and fantastic submissions if he gets to the ground. At the end of the day, he is a striker. He's looking to bang it out on his feet. His 62% takedown defense might seem low, but if you remove the Bilal Muhammad fight, since 2017, he's only been taken down 7 times, and that's in 15 fights. And keep in mind, almost everybody's just trying to take this guy down because his hands are so good. He's coming off that win over Rafael Dos Anjos, where he surprised everybody with an offensive grapple-heavy game plan and 8 takedowns. He's taking on Joaquin Buckley. As I've mentioned many, many times before, he's got the greatest highlight in the history of MMA. That spinning back jump kick over, I think it was Impa Kasanganay. Is that who it was against? I forget who it was against, but one of the greatest highlights of all time. And that's who he is as a fighter. A fun, exciting guy that can basically do everything he wants and has a ton of power. He is a striker who comes in hot. He's got good forward movement. He cuts angles well. We all know he has power, but he has gotten more comfortable recently, not just chasing a big knockout. He's done well recently working in some takedowns into his arsenal with 4 in his last 2 fights. He is a former middleweight who is now getting his biggest test at welterweight. But so far at welterweight, he's looked good. He's had the cardio, he's had the speed, he's had the power. We haven't seen him slow down. And this is a solid co-main event. I'll admit, I'm a Luque hater. I haven't been a fan of this guy. I don't even know why. He's always showing up. He performs to his abilities. He always puts on a good show. And maybe I'm just not a hater as much as I am an underestimator of his. I have always felt he was overrated and he gets too much credit for some low-level wins. But the reality is that he's a very good striker, he's a great grappler, and now a good offensive wrestler as well. Buckley is dangerous as hell in the cage and funny as hell out of it, honestly. His Instagram's pretty good. But I'm going to do my best to not be biased here. I'm going to pick Luque. The wrestling against RDA was impressive, and if he can mix that in with some striking, he can have some success. Then we have our main event of the evening. 2 weeks in a row, we have the ladies highlighted in the main event. Now, I'm not mad about it. The Namajunas-Hebos main event was not a great, that's just not a good main event. The fight ended up being pretty good, competitive, controversial, but it wasn't, on paper, not a great main event. This actually is. This is a title eliminator. One of these women should earn a title shot. The only way one of them doesn't earn the title shot if it's a trash win. If Erin Blanchfield wins the same way she won her last fight, she doesn't deserve a title shot. But if one of these women dominate, they absolutely deserve a title shot because both of these women have some very quality wins recently in the UFC. We have Erin Blanchfield taking on Manon Fiorot. Erin Blanchfield is a nasty grappler. She's got decent striking. She comes forward, she'll throw punches for a minute and then start working her grappling. She's still young, she's still cleaning things up, but she's improving quickly. And the comment section of almost every video that we break down of hers is already calling her the next champion. To the point where I don't even know if they're joking or if that many people genuinely think she's going to be a world champion. She averages around 6 significant strikes per minute and almost 3 takedowns per fight. She's coming off that close win over Taila Santos where her takedowns and her striking defense were basically trash, but her pressure and her toughness were very, very impressive. She's taking on Manon Fiorot. Manon Fiorot is a nasty striker with a killer instinct and very real finishing power. Even when she gets taken down, she has the skills and the fight IQ to work her way back up to her feet. She likes to fight at range and pick her shots. She has an impressive striking differential of 6-3, but she isn't just a striker. She's got some solid takedowns. She has takedown in every single one of her UFC fights except one. Solid takedown defense at 91%. And she's coming off that decision win over former champion Rose Namajunas. And this is a tough fight to call. It is, I don't know if it's officially a title eliminator. Let me know if it is, but it basically is a title eliminator. These are the two hottest prospects right now at this weight class. We definitely have a grappler versus striker matchup. Erin's takedowns are kind of shit. And Manon's takedown defense is very good. Erin gets hit a lot in her fight, at least she did in the Talia fight, and Manon hits very hard. And using those basic statements, it seems pretty obvious that Manon's going to win. And while I am going to pick Manon here, I'm not very confident. Erin is not soft. She is tough as hell, and she will continue moving forward, walking through punches, trying to get Manon to the ground. It is very possible that Manon hates that pressure and doesn't fight well backing up. I am still going to pick her, though. Literally because of how bad Erin's takedown attempts were in her last fight. That is literally why I'm picking Manon Fiorot, because those takedowns against somebody like Manon aren't going to be anywhere near as successful. They were barely successful in her last fight, and Manon hits super hard. So Manon's going to be the pick here. She is the dog, and underdogs have won 60% of the main events in 2024. Guys, let me know what you think and your thoughts on not only this fight, but the rest of them in the comments section. And if you want to send some mail, here is the address. We open up mail on every single Fight Foods vlog. We film a vlog for the pay-per-views. We open up the mail, whether it's just to highlight a small business, try out some food, or whatever it is. Here is the address. You can send the mail. We will open the packages, read your letters, and do all of that on the vlogs. I also ask you to become a premium member. It's only $10 for an entire month. You're going to unlock everything, including the safety parlay, the line movement tracker, the detailed data, metrics, and analytics, the DraftKings optimizer preloaded with the best DraftKings ownership projections in the game. You're also going to get more than just me. You're going to get Artem breaking down the UFC, breaking down the regional promotions. You're also going to get the Pick Doctor. This is an artificial intelligence, an AI, that is picking fights at an incredible rate. I think it's like 68% or something to that effect. All of that and so much more available right now at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top for $10 a month. And please do us a favor, like, subscribe, follow all the socials. We are We Want Picks literally everywhere. And then we have a second YouTube channel called Picks Nation. Thank you guys so much for the support. It has been incredible over these last couple of years what you've done for us. Good luck this week, and we appreciate you.